Good evening and welcome to the City of Roswell Mayor and City Council meeting for July 25th, 2022. I am Mayor Kurt Wilson and I'd like to acknowledge the council members present. Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Lee Hills, Councilmember William Mortland, and Councilmember Dr. Peter Vanstrom. For the record, Councilmember Michael Palermo has an excused absence. I'd like to now turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Randy Knighton, to explain how the meeting is run. Mr. Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson, and good evening to everyone. In accordance with Section Chapter 3.70 of the City Code, the City Council shall hold regular public meetings. The purpose of City Council meetings are for the public to participate and speak on agenda items which constitute formal decisions by the elected body. These items are listed on the published agenda, which can be accessed via our city website prior to the meeting. This is a public meeting, and some items do require a formal public hearing. A significant and important component of City Council meetings are to hear directly from residents on the items listed on the agenda. Public comments or questions are essential for the Mayor and City Council to incorporate as they contemplate each decision. Citizens are at the top of our organizational chart, and therefore it is imperative for the Mayor and Council to hear from City Council in these meetings. If you would like to speak on an item, we ask that you fill out a comment card, which are located in the back of the room and at the podium, in order to ensure an accurate record of the meeting. We ask, of course, that everyone observe the principles of mutual respect and display the appropriate demeanor during the course of the meeting this evening, which should be reflective of our great community. The Mayor is the presiding officer of the meeting and will ensure the orderly exchange of comments, questions, and discussion leading to decision-making by the elected body. We'd also encourage those in attendance and the viewing audience to visit our city website for meetings, events, and departmental information, and also to download our City of Roswell app for additional information, as well as access our web service portal to report any issues or concerns. Excuse me. We have a number of events that are always scheduled here in the City of Roswell, which promote community, physical activity, and leisure as we continue to make Roswell the #1 family community in America. Mayor Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Knighton. Well done, sir. At this time, we're privileged. I would like to call the Rabbi Jeff Feinstein to lead us in the moment of invocation and moment of silence. So, Rabbi?
Avinu Shel Shamayim, our Father in heaven, we thank you for the privilege of gathering here today, and we ask that you show guidance to these wonderful men and women who are charged with guiding the city of Roswell. Let them act as you would act. Guide them to always act in the right. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. At this time, I'd like to call my friend, Becky Nelson, who is a member of the Roswell Rotary Club, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I invite you to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Next on our agenda tonight is the Mayor's Report. And the first item is the reading of the proclamation for the Esteemed Veteran of Roswell Award to First Lieutenant Signal Corps Ron Sherman. So at this time, I'd like to ask First Lieutenant Signal Corps Ron Sherman forward for the proclamation to join me. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, First Lieutenant Signal Corps Ron Sherman, esteemed veteran. Whereas in May 1966, Ron Sherman was inducted into the United States Army and attended basic training and advanced individual training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Subsequently, Ron was assigned to Army Signal Corps' Officer Candidate School at Fort Bragg, Georgia, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. And whereas in November 1967, Ron was assigned to the Military Intelligence Aerial Reconnaissance Support Headquarters Company in Saigon, Vietnam. As chief of the reproduction section of headquarters, 1st Military Intelligence Battalion, the goal was to print quality images of aerial photographs for the photo interpreters. These images highlighted combat, damage, and bomb assessments, troop movements, and missions after the Tet Offensive. Ron was also instrumental in creating the handheld camera program, which enabled division commanders to view aerial photographs within hours and alleviated the delay of the Air Force aerial images that could take up a day to be delivered. And whereas in April 1868, Ron transferred to the 45th Military Intelligence Detachment in Hufel Bay Combat Base and was promoted to first lieutenant and volunteered for a special mission for the Defense Intelligence Agency. In February 1969, Newsweek magazine reported on this mission. Forgive me. Quote, "The North Vietnamese, in order to avoid U.S. eavesdropping on their radio messages, have strung a telephone telegraph landline down the Ho Chi Minh Trail through Laos and on into South Vietnam. U.S. photo reconnaissance pilots have picked up the shining reflection of glass insulators flashing through the heavy foliage," unquote. And whereas in November 1968, Ron began his last assignment at the Cleveland, Ohio Air Defense Unit as the signal officer for the artillery battalion, and also served as survivors assistance officer and notifications of next of kin officer. Ron was 25 years old with no training or experience, and always will remember this period of time as the hardest assignment he has ever experienced in his lifetime, informing the families that their loved ones will not be coming home. Ron has and always will carry this detail deep in his heart. And whereas Ron received his honorable discharge on May 5th, 1972, and the United States Army awarded and bestowed the following medals: the National Defense Service Medal, the Bronze Star Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the Vietnam Campaign Medal, and 2 Air Medals. Now therefore I, Kurt M. Wilson, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby name First Lieutenant Ron Sherman, an esteemed veteran of Roswell, and call upon all our citizens to recognize his outstanding service to our country and our community, and that there is no higher calling than those who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Thank you, First Lieutenant Sherman. I know you'd like to say a few words.
Never. Unaccustomed is to public speaking. To find my notes. There's more. There's not more than one page. Don? Okay. Thank you, Mayor Wilson, for the invitation, and a special thank you to Rob and Kenner for crafting my words into a understandable message. In 1966, I was working at the University of Florida and attending graduate school. I received my draft notice in June. I had just applied as a Peace Corps volunteer, but was informed that there was no position for me. After looking at different military services, I picked the Army Signal Corps Officers Candidate Program and was accepted. As a commissioned officer, I ended up with assignments that allowed me to use my professional talents. The Peace Corps did contact me for an assignment, but I was already in basic training. Never too late to get a message. As one of over 200 million men and women who served during Vietnam conflict, most came home after their commitment and resumed their former lives. I was one of them. In 1971, we moved to Atlanta, and I restarted my 61-year photographic career. On one early assignment, I photographed Georgia's Secretary of State, Max Cleland. In our discussions about Vietnam, he mentioned there was an organization that I might be interested in. It turned out it was the Atlanta Vietnam Veterans Business Association, the AVVBA. As you can tell, there are a few members in the audience from that organization. Over the years, you may have seen them greeting military personnel traveling through Hartsfield Airport or feeding the military in the USO canteen. The AVVBA has also placed 25 memorials throughout the city of Atlanta to honor the military veterans who died in serving their country and to honor their families. We also support our own members who have medical conditions and our families who have lost loved ones. I have many friends in this organization. I'd now like to read a statement I found on the internet by another veteran. I am a veteran. I love freedom. I wore dog tags. I have a DD-214. I serve my country. I walk the walk. My oath never ends. I'm a proud American U.S. Army veteran. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Army pilots who flew my missions for me, the great clients, associates, and friends who work with me along the way, and my wife Mara and the family who were long-time supports who allowed me to succeed. Thank you very much for coming.
All right, so I know Council, Ron Stepper, Myra, Hannah Zay, you'd like to come up here and take some pictures. I know Council wants to come as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Ron, you want to do a picture with your, hey, Ron, would you like to do a picture with your group here? All right, gentlemen, in the blue blazers. Picture?
Hey, you got all cleaned up and everything, too.
I'll get in the back because I'm tired. That's right.
We're gonna go down, hey guys, we're gonna go downstairs and get a group shot too.
Want to stand right in front of me, John?
Not right in front of you.
Nobody will know who you are.
I know.
Just watch where you put that hand.
August 2nd. All right, just while the picture's being taken, Mr. Leatherman just informed me that Ron's visual art showcase will be at the Cultural Arts Center, the Roswell Cultural Arts Center, beginning August the 2nd, running through September 29th. So this great gentleman that we just honored this evening, Ron Sherman, has a visual art showcase at the Roswell Cultural Arts Center beginning August 2nd, running through September 29th. Please go check it out. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
How far downstairs? Very,
Not the basement.
so we get off at 1, not 2.
Thank you. Wouldn't have missed it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Sir.
Mayor?
Sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I got an extra one if you need it. Thank you, First Lieutenant Sherman and family and friends for being here to celebrate Lieutenant Sherman and the esteemed Veteran of Roswell Award tonight. It means a lot to all of us. Thank you so much. Next is the mayor's report. Next, the consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda. You can probably see them there. One is the approval of the mayor and council meeting minutes, number 1. Number 2 is approval of the mayor and city administrator to sign a mutual aid agreement. Number 3 is approval to trade in 14 cardiac monitors. Number 4 is approval of resolution to submit the FY22 grant, justice assistance grant. 5 is approval of resolution to allow scarecrows in the city of Roswell right away. 6 is approval of resolution to apply for a cultural facilities grant. 7 is approval for the city administrator to approve any necessary documents for a license for land use. All these 7 items are on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember Hills. Motion made by Councilmember Hills to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Mortland. Let me step back a second. Forgive me. Is there any comment on the consent agenda by council or questions? Forgive me. Is there any comment or questions from residents on the consent agenda? My apologies for skipping that. All right, I'm going to ask for a motion again, Councilmember Hills, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember Hills. I will ask for a second on the, thank you, Councilmember Mortland. I have a second. All those in favor of passing the consent agenda, please raise your hands. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next is the Community Development Department. Councilmember Vanstrom, would you read the first community development item?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. The second reading, the approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code by modifying Article 4, Corridor Nodes Districts, Section 4.2, District Components, Section 4.2.1, Applicability, and Article 13, Administration, Section 13.4.3, who can submit an application.
Thank you, Councilmember Vanstrom. City Attorney Davidson, would you read the ordinance, please, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by modifying Article 4, Corridor Nodes District, Section 4.2, District Components, Section 4.2.1, Applicability, and Article 13, Administration, Section 13.4.3, who can submit an application. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority, do hereby amend Article 4, Corridor and Nodes District, Section 4.2, District Components, Section 4.2.1, Applicability, and Article 13, Section 13.4.3, who can submit an application, letter E of the Unified Development Code, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Councilmember Vanstrom, would you call Ms. Dybel forward?
Yeah, Ms. Jackie Dybel, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading, as stated by City Attorney David Davidson for UDC Section 4.2, District Components, Section 4.2.1, Applicability, and Section 13.4.3, who can submit an application. This went to committee in April, initiation on May 9th. Planning Commission heard this on June 21st. It was first reading on July 11th. Second reading is this evening. This is creating a letter D in Section 4.2.1 regarding mixed-use development. If they include multiple parcels, as stated before, subdivision review is required first. And then if on those parcels there are existing buildings, let's use a gas station, for example, that they want to use as part of the commercial square footage, that gas station would be a conditional use, and they would have to ask for a conditional use with their request for the multifamily if they chose to use that square footage as part of their development. So this is being added to Section 4.2.1. It is also being added to creating a letter E, or amending letter E, to include the same language in Section 13.4.3. Do you have any questions for staff? Our Planning Commission recommended approval. It was approved by the mayor and council at the first reading. Do you have any questions for staff?
Thanks, Ms. Dybel. Council, any thoughts or questions for Ms. Dybel? Being that there are no thoughts or questions from council, would anybody from our Roswell residents like to address the issue? Being that there are no Roswell residents who would like to address the issue, I bring it back to council for any further discussion. Councilmember Vanstrom.
Yeah, this is the second reading, and I'd just like to summarize why I support this, certainly, and kind of echo Councilman Palermo's comments at our last meeting. Just reviewing that this is actually going to allow the landowner and the developers a choice, which I think is fantastic. They can utilize their existing buildings on a parcel, and they can count that towards a new development on another section of that parcel. If they choose to utilize the existing buildings, those existing buildings must meet the current UDC standards and codes, such as setbacks, buffer zones, sidewalks, etc. Or, as I understand it, they cannot count the existing buildings if they choose, and they can focus only on the new development on their parcel, and within their new development, they would be following our standards and codes as presented in the UDC. So I think this is a wonderful, wonderful adjunct and clarification for the UDC for mixed-use development. I'd like to thank Councilman Hall for her work on this, and Councilman Palermo for their hard work on this, and the staff as well.
Thank you.
And with that, I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Vanstrom. A motion is made. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Hall. All those in favor of passing this, of the approval of the text amendment of the UDC code, modifying Article 4, Corridor and Notice District, Section 4.2, District Components, Section 4421, Pickle Building, Article 3, Administration, Section 1343, who can submit an application, second reading. All in favor, please raise your hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Councilmember Vanstrom, would you read the next community development item?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. Second reading, approval of a text amendment to the Unified Development Code to Articles 8 and 13, demolitions in historic district.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Vanstrom. City Attorney Davidson, would you read the ordinance, please, sir?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the Unified Development Code by modifying Article 8, Section 8.2, Historic District Overlay, and modifying Article 13, Section 13.7.4, what is an administrative certificate of appropriateness, and Section 13.7.11, what if an application is for demolition, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this will be the second reading.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Councilmember Vanstrom, would you ask Jackie Dybel to explain the item?
Yeah, please, Ms. Dybel, if you would.
Sure. So this is the second reading, stated, for the text amendment to the Historic District Overlay, Section 13.7.4 and Section 8.2. This went to committee in April, initiated on May 9th, heard by Planning Commission in June. Mayor and Council had the first reading on July 11th. The Historic Preservation Commission, which I have a slide for in here, heard this item on July 11th or July 13th, and this is the second reading tonight on July 25th. So this is to include the properties, historic properties mapped as adopted in 2003. So this section is to include the map. And these are all the different definitions that are currently in the code: historic, historic obscured, non-historic, intrusion, and vacant. So what this changes is to add the R to other similar changes determined by the zoning director with consent of the chair for administrative, and also to add letter Q, which is brand new, for demolition of buildings, structures, or other objects classified as intrusion on the historic properties map as established in Article 8. So if you go back to this definition here, intrusion is structures from any year that detract from the historic character of the district. So what this text amendment would be doing is adding, allowing staff to approve demolitions for properties that are listed as intrusion on the historic properties map. The second part of this text amendment is to allow an applicant who wants to request a demolition, to allow them to request the demolition before the Historic Preservation Commission, but not bring the site plan for new construction at the same time. So if they are ready to bring the site plan in 6 months after that, then they would go through that process at that point in time. So this is creating, allowing an applicant who wants to demo, but not have their site plans and other plans maybe ready at the same time, to not hold them up, to allow them to go to the HPC for demolition, but then to also allow them to go to the back a little later, month later, 2 months later, I'm not sure. But this is only for properties that are considered historic obscured. So if you go back to this definition, structures, buildings, or objects that were more than 50 years old in 2001, but do not contribute to the historic character due to unsympathetic but irreparable alterations. This does not include allowing somebody who has a historic building to do that. It does not include somebody who has something that's non-historic. It is just historic obscured to allow an applicant to go to the HPC with the demo separate from the site plan for new construction. So, as I stated, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this text amendment in June. The Historic Preservation Commission heard this on July 13th. They recommended approval of placing the historic properties map into the UDC. However, the board did recommend denial of allowing staff review and approval of demolitions for properties classified as intrusion, and they also recommended denial of allowing an applicant to submit for a demolition without having a site plan for new construction at the same meeting. So as I stated, the board discussed this item at their July 13th, 2022 meeting. And according to our code, the Historic Preservation Commission has the authority to make a recommendation on any plan or any text amendment that is going through the process. Staff does recommend approval of the second reading as stated originally from the first reading. Do you have any questions for staff?
Thanks, Jackie. Council, any thoughts or comments or questions on the matter at hand? For staff. For staff. You got it for staff? Any thoughts, questions, or comments on the matter at hand, period? Yes, sir. I'll go first if you want me to. Would any Roswell residents like to comment on the matter at hand? Yes, ma'am. Welcome. Glad to see you. I will announce you so you don't have to do that. Would that make it easier? Janet Russell, Roswell resident. I should know your address by now.
Janet Russell, Roswell resident. Quick question to Jackie or to the council. I live near the historic district. We have a lot of owners of buildings who just let them fall apart with the hopes that then they could get a demo permit because the thing is falling down. They don't maintain them, they don't paint them, they don't clean them, they're just empty. A good example is the one next to Spiced Right Ribs. They had put plywood up on the windows for a while because all the windows broke. Now they've put in windows that are totally non-historic, non-compatible. But they just put them in. I guess it was better than plywood. I've been around when a lot of these buildings were just abandoned basically, and then one night they magically burned down. Used to call that Italian fire insurance. We've seen it with a church here in town, where the Synovus Bank is now, Lebanon Baptist Church, just magically burned down one night. Anybody that was living here remembers it. So I'm wondering if there's any way we can control the condition of these buildings. the area between this city hall and the river is on a downward slide, not because people don't love it and visit it, but because the people that come here are investors and don't give a flip about it. All they think is they're gonna hang on to it because it's valuable property. One day it'll fall down and then they'll make a lot of money and build whatever the hell they wanna build. Because something is better than a burnt down building. We saw it on Sloane Street. So I wanna make sure that somewhere in this UDC or whatever you're calling it, there is some kind of codification that people that buy historic buildings in the historic district at least maintain them. Not broken like next to Spiced Right. I complained a lot because bad enough we can't walk down there because of the Oxbow Road construction. But landscape timbers falling on the sidewalks, broken pottery things. It's just horrible. People just leave it. It looks like, I mean, if I wanted to live in Yemen, I'd move there. That's a war-torn country. This is the historic district and the center of the largest historic district in Metro Atlanta. Let's take a little pride in the front porch, which is what this is. So we need to do something in here to codify it, not just say, oh, they can get a demo permit and all that. Well, yeah, if you just let it fall apart, then anybody's ready to let it fall down. So please take that into consideration. It's really important. I've said it before, nobody says, ooh, Roswell has a Target and 2 Home Depots, let's go visit. They come here for our parks, they come here for our historic district, they come here for a genuine welcome. But we are letting the historic district fall apart piece by piece because we're so concerned about Canton Street and parking garages.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Any other comments from Roswell residents? Thank you. All right, I'm going to bring it back to council. Councilmember Vanstrom.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your comments, and I do know our city administrator is sitting right down here taking notes, and he'll be looking into some of the condition of some of those historical buildings. I think one of the callings of our council is to streamline where we can streamline and to create efficiencies where we can create efficiencies. And I think that's what this does. This ordinance does streamline the process, allowing for the demolition of intrusive buildings, those buildings that actually detract from the historic district, by letting staff take over and taking this initiative to do this a lot quicker. At the same time, though, it assures that anything that's built or rebuilt, and this is what's so important, anything that is rebuilt in the historic area still has to go through the HPC and through the public process. I just wanted to assure everyone of that with the second reading, and I'd like to make a motion to approve the text amendment of the Unified Development Code to Articles 8, 13, demolitions in historic district.
Dr. Vanstrom, would you allow a question?
Question? We got more discussion.
I'll get more discussion, just quick.
Cool.
So I thought I was mistaken, and maybe Jackie can illuminate me. And by the way, Janet, I think a lot of your comments are incredibly spot on with relation to the responsibility we have to codify, and this is part of it. So you're exactly right. We do need, there is a responsibility for us to take care of the historic district in a way that is reflective of what we want, not of what we don't want. And I think you're and you're completely correct about that. And I think that we do need to find ways to codify that, and this is part of that step. But I'm curious, the HPC denied this? Voted against this? I'm confused.
Yes, the HPC did recommend denial of 2 portions of this. They recommended approval to place the map in Article 8, but they did recommend denial of the allowing staff to approve the demolitions for the intrusion and allowing an applicant to not bring a site plan for new construction at the same time.
And do we know why they were against that? I'm just curious. Anybody know?
The items have been brought to the board in the past. I think they wanted it to be kept that way.
Okay. Keep control? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. All right, that's all I had, Dr. Vitch. Yeah. No, do you have anything else, sir? Council, any other thoughts, questions, comments? Dr. Vanstrom.
Motion again?
Yes, sir. Would you make that motion for us? Sorry.
Motion- That's all right, thank you. Motion to approve the second reading of a text amendment of the Unified Development Code to Articles 8 and 13 demolitions in historic districts.
Thank you, Dr. Vanstrom. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Morthland. All those in favor of the approval of text amendment the UDC to Articles 8 and 13 demolition historic district second reading, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Councilmember Vanstrom, would you read the last community development item? Yeah.
Move that along so well. This will be looking for approval of a resolution for adoption of the annual update to the, this one. No, it's not transportation. This is right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She, talk about being in a hurry. She's already skipped one. All right, approval of resolution for adoption of the annual update to the capital improvement element and the short-term work program.
Thank you. Councilman Vanstrom, would you ask Jackie to explain the item?
Yeah, Ms. Dybel, and before you proceed, we want to wish you the best of luck in your upcoming surgery. I know we probably won't see you until you're on the recoup side of things, so
Keep our
best of
fingers
luck
crossed
to
for
you.
Friday. So this is the adoption for the annual update of the capital improvement element and short-term work program. So you saw this back in May when it was transmitted to the state. And the state, DCEA, Department of Community Affairs, and the Atlanta Regional Commission have both approved it. They've submitted it back to the city. It is here tonight for adoption. Once it's adopted by the mayor and council, we send the resolution back to the state. And once they receive that, we receive our letter of qualified local government status for another year. Staff recommends approval of adoption.
Jackie, did this come before committee?
Yes.
It did?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't remember it. How long ago?
Probably back in April.
Dumb question. If we did it in committee in April, why are we looking, why is it on the agenda in July?
So in May, you transmitted it to the state. Once it goes to the state, it goes down there for a while, and they have to review it. Once it's approved by the state, it comes back to the council for your on your agenda in order for you to adopt it.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Thoughts, questions, or comments, council, for Ms. Dybel? Council, thank you, Jackie. City Council, any other general thoughts, questions, or comments related to this matter? All right, that being said, do any Roswell residents have any comments on this matter? That being said, I bring it back to the council. Any additional thoughts, comments, or questions? Thank you very much. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Vanstrom.
Motion for item 4, transportation, oh, no, that's not the right one. Community develop, item 3, motion to approve resolution for adoption of the annual update to the capital improvement element and the short-term work program.
Thanks, Councilmember Vanstrom. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Hall. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councilmember Vanstrom. All right, next, the Transportation Department. Councilmember Hall, will you read the transportation item?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 4, approval of the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a construction contract with Energy Solutions, LLC for a solar streetlight project along Scott Road between Eves Road and Old Scott Road in an amount not to exceed $210,000. And this will be presented by Interim Department Head Dan Skalski.
Thank you,
Good evening,
Councilmember Hall.
Mayor and Council. I'm here to run over very quickly what I think is a very good news story for the city. So tonight, this item has a few unique features to it, and on the screen, I'm actually showing the location of the project. I'm not going to go through too many graphics, but I'll be happy to if you have questions. To me, the highlights in this one are about the schedule and the numbers. We had initially initiated this project back in 2019 in response to requests from citizens, the chief of police, related to the safety of pedestrians around Scott Road area. and initiated investigating what it would take to get streetlights in place in that location. At that time, we had more or less a pause on new streetlights in the city for economic reasons. And in January of 2020, we actually brought an item to committee, but the cost at that time was about $380,000, and we did not have the funding to move forward with it. Flash forward to this year, and we brought an item to committee this March actually, recommending that we consider looking at solar lighting in that location. Committee's response, and I appreciate your all's support, was how fast can you get this done? And why hasn't this been done already? And we proposed a kind of two-phase program with limited funding that was available last year. And you initially said, let's get the whole project in as fast as possible. And it's been approved in the budget, which began July 1. We actually accepted bids as soon as possible and are bringing it to you today for construction. And the weirdest thing has happened, which is our bid prices are remarkably competitive. The entire cost of this project is less than half of what we thought it was going to be back in 2020. So that just doesn't happen very often, so we're pretty excited about that, and hopefully the folks at the high school and the elementary school and police will be happy as soon as we can get this done. We hope to move forward with it with a direct contract with the manufacturer, the low bidder, and we'll actually be able to get the entire up to 35 lights installed in this whole stretch, and hopefully we'll be able to get it all done, we think, before the time changes in the fall. So with that, I'll answer any questions you may have, or you can show some graphics, but this is a record short meeting, so I thought there might not be too many questions.
Councilmember Hills.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Skalsky and your team. This was something that I was really thrilled to hear come up in April, March, whenever it was. But we all know what the grind is in the fall with high school football, and with over 2,000 students at Centennial, plus all the community members and kids that feed into that high school or that just live in the neighborhood and attend ball games and other sporting events. This is a huge deal, and I applaud you guys for doing your due diligence while running like feverishly to get this done. So thank you very much. I'm in full support, and I couldn't be more happy.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall.
Thank you. And thank you, Dan, for all your hard work in making this happen, and so quickly, too. Just looking at this picture, these are the existing lights, these green kind of bright green areas. So all the lights that we're going to install are between those two. That's the new lights. Thank you. That's fantastic.
That is, well, I just want to give, Dan, by the way, we love you. Well done, as always. And this came out of committee. So if you remember, this amazing city council in the committee in that discussion saw the possibilities and the opportunities and expanded this and heightened the timeline to say, instead of making this a 3-year project, right, let's get it done now. And there is what it looks like done now, as you said, by the time change. And what a difference it's going to make to all the people in that area. We're all so excited about this, and thanks for getting this done. And to your point, look at the pricing, the cost models, how they came in. They're fantastic. I mean, it's so exciting when a plan comes to fruition, and it's even better than you think.
Could I make one other comment?
No
Just
way.
a shout out to the staff in traffic who put this together. Mushtaba Al-Ahmadi, who put this through procurement along with his team, started with the city in May of 2021. So he had none of this history and was learning his way through our process. And they don't all happen this fast, Mushtaba, but I just appreciate you making this one happen this quick.
Amen. Yes, thank you, Michelle. Well done, Dan. Any other thoughts or comments or questions from the council? All right, so would any Roswell residents like to address this matter? Dan, thank you. Well done, sir. Appreciate it. I'm going to bring it back to council. Any other thoughts, questions, or comments before we take it to make a motion on it? Councilmember Hall, would you like to make a motion on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, motion to approve item number 4 on the Transportation Department agenda.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, seconded by Councilmember Hills. And this is the approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a construction contract with Energy Solutions LLC for a solar streetlight project along Scott Road in between Eves Road and Old Scott Road in an amount not to exceed $210,000. All in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dan. All right, we'll now go to the city attorney's report. Mr. David Davidson.
Thank you, Mayor. The only item I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel litigation and real estate.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Do I have a motion for closure?
Motion to adjourn to closure?
Motion for closure by Councilmember Hills. Do I have a seconded? Second? Seconded by Councilmember Hall. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. Being that there are no other items, this mayor and city council meeting of July 25th, 2022 is adjourned. Thank you very much. Wow. Oh, my God.